Good evening, my beautiful brothers and sisters in Jesus. Today is Thursday, the 9th of May, 2024. It is 9:47 p.m. here in Australia. I hope you're doing very well and I hope you've all been blessed. Sorry about the absence, brothers and sisters, and as you can tell from my voice, I'm recovering. I've still got the cough, but I was incredibly sick from Wednesday night until about Monday morning. Very, very sick. I'm talking like couldn't leave the bed, bedridden, fever, chills, the works. I have never been that sick in my entire life. It was a blessing in disguise because I had a lot of time with Father, and I know a lot of it had to do with a lot of misguided intentions of people that are very hesitant about what I'm speaking about now. And Father showed me this in a very quick vision, not a vision, but rather just like an image in my mind of just the negativity of people's comments and what they believe their intentions is, you know, with so-called praying for me because I'm deceived and all this kind of stuff. Just in their hearts, they're real sort of, it's just not a good thing in their heart, you know, and whether they're doing it consciously or subconsciously, it doesn't matter. And I found that the night that I said, you know what, Father, I love them, I pray for them, I totally understand why people are resistant to what I'm talking about, because this is a message that I probably wouldn't want to have heard a year ago. I would have been exactly the same, you know, or maybe not so much because I've always had a pretty open mind and open heart. But in saying that, the sickness was a real blessing because I spent a lot of time with Father, and he was able to show me many things, incredible things. And tonight's video is going to be about the notes that I have taken in these in the last week, and basically I'm going to go over them with you. They are more just, like I said, they're in point form, and I'm just going to read it to you that I wrote it down. I wrote it down on my phone notepad and then pretty much sent it to myself and put it on a word pad here on the computer so we can see it together. And then I also took photos of these little you know, what do you call these things? Index cards. And yeah, so basically I'm going to, you know, share what's been going on because obviously the last video was really, it really rattled some feathers, and believe me, over on TikTok, my whole community over there is literally throwing stones at me at the moment. It's pretty full on. I've had people that have been so kind and beautiful and just really turn on me and just, you know, anyway, it's all good. It's all part of the process, and I totally understand and I love them, and I just pray that Father allows them to have a softened heart, an open mind and open ears and open eyes to see this. And with that being said, I want to start this from the beginning in making this absolutely clear. No matter what I talk about, no matter what, you know, roads we go down and explore, I need you to understand that the Father in heaven, our Father in heaven, the one that Jesus came to this earth and told everybody about, that is my Father. And he is the one true source, he is the one true God, and that is the one who I worship and serve. And his Son Jesus, who he sent to this earth and who died on the cross, I absolutely believe that he did this, and I confess with my mouth that he is the Son of God. That will never change, brothers and sisters. Okay, what is changing is the rest of it. Everything bar Jesus' words, I have found that there's some half-truths in it. But what stands firm on a rock is Jesus and the Father. That will never change. So I need you to understand that, that people are worried or concerned that I'm going down a new age path and this is dangerous and deceptive. Brothers and sisters, you have to understand the time that we're living in. It is the end, no matter which way you look at it. We're at the end, and we're living through the highest point of deception there could possibly ever be on this earth. And Satan is incredibly smart. He's going to use the highest and most deceitful tactics he can. And this is why even the elect, if possible, will even be deceived. Now, I want to also state too, brothers and sisters, that, people will come and they will comment and say, you need to stick to the Bible. This is why I stick to the Bible, because, people who go down these rabbit holes, they always end up on these tangents. Please understand, brothers and sisters, that even Jesus himself said that, that the road to hell and destruction is extremely wide and the pathways are many. But to the truth, it's very narrow. And he said, and only few find it. So by people coming on here and saying, it's only the Bible, get back to the Bible and, don't look here and don't look there and stick to what you've been told. To sticking to what the majority believes just because a pastor or a priest or a teacher at the pulpit has said these things, or the Bible colleges have brought it down, the scholars, this is what the scholars say and we must stick to this and we can't veer off it. This is exactly what Jesus was talking about. These are the modern day Pharisees and Sadducees that hold the key. They know this truth, but because they're not going in, they're not letting any of us go in either. And so my job now as a child of God and as your brother and sister, as your sister, sorry, not your brother, but as your sister in Jesus, is to be brave enough to stand here knowing fair well, look, people say, you're doing this for the views. That's the last thing I'm doing this for, because I am losing people so fast now. Because this truth is not talking about a date or a rapture or all the good stuff that people like to talk about. But I know in my heart of hearts that my job now is for that narrow path and the few that find it. And I'm not sitting here saying, I'm the right one here, everything I'm saying is right. What I'm saying, brothers and sisters, is I'm going to allow it to say that I am brave enough to ask questions, because I want to be on that narrow path and I want to be part of the few that are chosen. Okay, this is not some big majority group where we just believe this stock standard delivery of the doctrine and we're good with it. It's not like that. So I just want to make that very clear, brothers and sisters, that I think that the time that we're living in, and from that solar eclipse, as you know, the videos that I did leading up to the solar eclipse, about a week before, I did a video at midnight. Father was like, you're not going to go to sleep, girl, you need to get up and do a warning video about that eclipse. Okay, and so I literally couldn't go to sleep until I got up, turned my computer back on, made the warning video about the eclipse to say, stop the focus, it's the focus. The evil ones are using this focus for their advantage, for the energy to be drawn out for their purpose. And it turned out that was absolutely correct. They were using it to open portals and things like this. And just speaking of portals and CERN and all that kind of topic, did you know that the internet actually come from CERN? And the internet is called the World Wide Web. And this is why I have this page up here at the moment, of the gridded sky. Okay, I've just been looking. This is a proper professional photography page where they're asking Nikon and all these professional photography people, why am I getting this diamond grid in the sky and all this kind of stuff. And yes, there's going to be scientific answers or professional answers for how they, just like they blow off the chemtrails and all those kind of things, saying, oh, these are just certain clouds because ice and heat created this, whatever. It's all BS. But why I'm bringing this up is, from that solar eclipse, brothers and sisters, the whole world was able to see what's really up there. The fake sun, okay? And whether it is a fake sun, no word of a doubt, it is a fake sun, but whether our real sun or another sun is behind it, that's still, I'm still researching that and still looking into that. Because that could be somewhat of a portal or an entrance and an exit way that they're trying to cover up. And we can look into that further and whatnot, this, like the black sun and all this kind of stuff. I know this sounds completely 180 from what I always used to talk about years ago, and that's cool. We grow. But I want you to take note that I really believe the reason why we're starting to see the sun simulation and the grids in the sky and just the glitches that are happening is because it is a simulation, brothers and sisters. Now, when I speak of a simulation, don't just tune off because these are, non-Christian words. It's the only way to explain, and I'm showing you my notes shortly, that it explains what Jesus talked about in his parables so well. The simulation literally fits Jesus's parable like a glove. And this is, I think, the reason why I got so sick, and I got, had these high fevers and sweated and chilled and couldn't sleep, and it was just, I just had to lie there and get my notepad out and just type as this, as Father's Spirit led me to. But this is the reason why I think we had this veil, as I like to say, the veil fell. I think the two, what do you call it? Just like when Jesus was crucified, the veils on the temple were rent in two. The same thing happened, brothers and sisters. The same thing happened on April the 8th. And now we can see clearly. The problem that we have now is that a lot of people want to hold on to the old. They want to hold on to the old because it was safe. Okay? Because the stuff I'm talking about and many people are looking into now is a little bit like, well, I don't know that, I don't like that, because I don't know, what does this mean for me? And I've been I went through this. I went through I want to deny it, because what it means is, it means, there's no rapture. It means that, there's no this and there's no that, and what does it mean for life after death, and all this kind of questions that you ask, right? But a matter of fact, once you go through all the scary questions and you allow Father to speak to your heart, you realize that no matter where you go, there is always salvation, and there is always a rescue, and there's always a deliverance, always. We're going to be taken out of here. We're going to be, we'll just use the word raptured. That doesn't go away, brothers and sisters. It's just not how we're being told it will happen. But in saying that, this is the danger, the absolute danger of the modern day acknowledgement or understanding of the rapture that we have today in the church. And one, why it's so dangerous is because the Christians today are doing exactly what Jesus said not to do. And they are continuously looking for signs. And Jesus said, I'm going to give that final generation, that wicked generation, none. There'll be no signs. Okay, and like I explained in my last video, and those of you who are new, just go back a few videos ago. You'll see a video titled Come Study With Me, Genesis 1, Genesis 2, where I talk about how the creation of Genesis 1 was by the Elohim. Okay, it's not by our Father in heaven. Okay, this whole prison that we're living in right now wasn't Father's intention for us. We were all quite happy living up there with him until Satan had to go and, be an idiot, basically. But what I'm starting to see now, and it explains so much why now in 2024 that the veil has fallen, is because it is the end. It is the end of the cycle. It is the end of the end of the end. There's no more of this constant recycling or reincarnation of all this kind of stuff going over and over and over again. It's coming to the end. And why it's so important that, people be brave and stand up and speak this truth now is because there's coming a time where it will be cut off. You will either be left out in the darkness with gnawing and gnashing of teeth, as Jesus says, or like it says in the book of 2nd Esdras, you're going to see paradise and be in the presence of the Father. And over on the other side, there's just, hell and destruction and separation from God. We're getting to that time now where there's going to be no more, and look, I'm just going to say it because where I'm at now, I don't just pick and choose these things because they sound awesome. For years, I've heard these things and rejected them because they're not part of the Christian script. But now, particularly at the end of last year, when the whole rapture thing was like, being questioned in my mind because I was allowing Father to speak his truth, not what I wanted. I wanted so desperately the rapture. But I came to the end where I was like, man, I've been watching this since 2016. Something's not right here. Father, I don't care what it is, just tell me the truth. I want to know your truth and, what is your will. I don't care if I'm going to get my head cut off. I finally got to that point where I didn't care what the truth was or how uncomfortable it was. And I think everybody needs to get to that stage before you can see this. Because up until you get to that point and you still want to live in the comfort of, yes, there's a rapture and I'm going to escape in a second and a whoosh, and none of this bad stuff's going to happen to me and all these suckers are going to be left behind here and blah blah blah. It's such an egotistical what do you call it, way of thinking, but getting back, I'm going to probably rant a lot in this video, just go off on little tangents and stuff like this, because I don't know the next time when I can make a video, because this one, I've been wanting to make one for the last, 3 or 4 days, but my voice, I just haven't been able to stop coughing, so I'm going to just go with this one. But I just want to make the point that veil is now fallen, okay, and we can see, that we're living in a simulation, okay, and this is all the child's cartoon Chicken Little, where he runs around saying, oh, the sky's falling, and everyone just jokes at him and and mocks him and scoffs him and stuff like this. And it makes so much sense with our terminology, the World Wide Web. When you think you think about the grid and just everything, the terminology of when about a computer, like with viruses and programs, we have all those things in our daily life, right? So that's just leading up to what my video is about tonight. And so I'm going to get on to my notes now. Right. So let's jump onto my notes. And I'll explain them as I go. I've got 9 pages here of notes, so hopefully we won't go too long, but you know how these things end up. Right, so as you know from my last couple of videos, I've been really strong and really fervent within my heart and spirit to be saying Jesus' words only. It's literally the only thing you can trust. And I know people might be saying, oh, fair enough, I can sort of see in the Old Testament, because I've shown you scripture, I've shown you many great other videos that you can go and research and watch, that the Yahweh in the Old Testament is not our Father in heaven. And even Jesus himself says, to the Jews, you are of your father the devil, and he was a liar and a murderer from the beginning. And I'm not going to get into that too much in tonight's video because it's a huge topic, but there's plenty of information out there if you want to look into that more. But then I started looking into the New Testament, and I found that the only truth really that wasn't half truths, or that you didn't go that's a bit weird, was what Jesus spoke. That is the only thing that's like beautiful, pure and perfect. Everything else is questionable, especially the book of Revelations, which I showed you in a few of my videos, that it's a added free Masonic playbook for the elites. Okay, they added that book in. John the Divine, John of Patmos, is one of Freemasons' greatest patriarch saints. Okay, and they venerate him and they hold him to the highest regard. And I showed you in my previous videos how the Jews, the menorah. The menorah is in every Masonic temple, and they're one and the same, basically, in a nutshell. Judaism and Freemasonry are one and the same, just with different names. And so that got me thinking, okay, I'm not entirely convinced with the book of John, okay? Because John is included in the Gospels for some reason. They say Matthew, Mark, Luke and John, right? But I've always been a bit iffy on John, because John it's not like Matthew, Mark and Luke. And John is the one where this blasphemous idea of the Trinity comes into being, okay? And, and like I've already shown, and I believe I've proven, that, where John 1:1 says, in the beginning was God, and God was the Word, and all that kind of stuff. Well, I've proven that in Genesis 1, in the beginning, it was the Elohim that created, okay? So that's why I've always been sus on John. So, long story short, basically found that John was added much later. And so that's, but I was leaving it on the table. I didn't want to, look, when I talk about this, I'm not saying for you to scrap John, for you to scrap any writings from Paul, because there's half-truths in it. And that's how they get you, brothers and sisters. That's how they get you. And I'm going to show you a little bit later on in this video, because they're written on my index cards, a couple of, I ended up looking in 1 Corinthians chapter 4 just for one verse, and I'm like, what the? And then that got me reading chapter 4, chapter 5, chapter 6, all the way up to 11. And I was one after the other of Paul's, what he wrote was just a mouth jaw drop. Like, what the hell is this? How can people not see this? But we'll get there. We'll get there. But I'm not saying throw the Bible out now, but what I'm saying is the only truth that you can hold to, the truth, absolute truth, is what Jesus himself said. Everything else is, you've got to use your discernment to the max. Okay, so with that being said, when I was really, really sick, I had placed on my heart, Father was like, where does my son say, I am the light of the world? I'm like, hang on. I wonder where that phrase comes, does it come in Matthew, Mark or Luke? Or does it start in John? And so I did a, quick little word search, and sure enough, the first time the phrase is, I'm the light of the world, it's found in John. Okay, and why that was alarming to me was because Satan himself says that he masquerades himself as an angel of light. Okay, now I know you may be thinking, what are you trying to compare the two? And what I'm trying to say to you is no. What they're doing is trying to attach things to Jesus. They're trying to attach things to link their deceptive doctrines to him. Okay, just like I explained that in the genealogy of Jesus in Matthew 1, the first thing it says is he's from the lineage of David. He's not. Many, many times, more than 30 times, it says, I come from my father sent me. Okay? The whole immaculate birth, the whole veneration of Mary and all of that, that is a Catholic thing. That is a Council of Nicaea doctrine that's been brought forth. They decided to make that scripture and doctrine. Father sent Jesus into this world to be a witness of him, of the real Father, of the real one true God. Okay? And so the best thing that the bad people could do, the evil people could do, the Pharisees and Sadducees, was like they knew they couldn't win this war. So what they did was intermingle and entwine their so-called bloodline, their seed, their doctrines into the word. Okay? So I'm like going, oh my goodness, I'm the light of the world is only found in John, and the message in John 3:16 is only found in John as well. This is a whole nother thing here. Like I said, I'm just going to read my notes and we'll talk about them as I go. They might not be in order. But okay, so John 3:16, right? Pretty much the whole world knows that, even if you don't believe or know the Bible. But, for God so loved the world that he gave his one and only begotten Son, that whoever shall believe in him shall be saved. Have you ever considered, brothers and sisters, by adding something like that, by saying that God gave us his Son so that we could kill him, or so that he could die for us? Has anyone ever stopped to consider, is that actually even true? Why would a father do that? And now when we understand that the Yahweh of the Old Testament, when you look at the story of Abraham and Isaac, why did Yahweh say to Abraham, I want you to go up and, basically stab your son? Our Father in heaven would never ask such a thing. But it's just a question. All of these things are questioned. I'm not saying thus saith the Lord, okay? I'm putting these things before you to contemplate and really ask yourself, did Father really give us his son so that we could kill him? Or, brothers and sisters, is the answer in the parable? Okay, we're going to have a look at the parable. So it's in Matthew 21. Let's have a look at that now. So let's go down a bit. Okay. Just got to find it. Alright. So Matthew 21:33. Hear another parable. There was a certain householder which planted a vineyard and hedged it around about, and digged a winepress in it, and built a tower, and let it out to the husbandman, and went away to a far country. And when the time of the fruit drew near, he sent his servants to the husbandman, that they might receive of the fruit of it. And the husbandman took his servants, and beat one, and killed another, and stoned another. Again he sent other servants more than the first, and they did unto them likewise. Okay, so these are all the prophets of the Old Testament. And again, I want to stress, I'm not saying that the prophets like Isaac and Abraham and all that were evil. I'm saying that the God of the Old Testament, Yahweh, he was the evil one, and the genocidal one, and the bloodthirsty sacrificial one, okay? But all these servants, look what they did to them, okay? Now what happens here? But last of all, he sent unto them his son, saying, they will reverence my son. And in other translations it says they will listen to him. They'll listen to my son. Okay, so this was the intention, that I'm going to send my son because they're going to listen to him. Surely they've got enough respect for me that they're going to listen to my son. But it says, but when the husbandmen saw the son, they said among themselves, this is the heir. Come, let us kill him and seize us his inheritance. And they caught him and cast him out of the vineyard and slew him. Okay, so the intention here, the Father sent his son for people to listen to him. And what does it say right in the beginning when Jesus first comes on the scene with John the Baptist and he gets baptized? What happened? A dove comes down and the clouds come open, and a voice from heaven, which was the Father, said, this is my beloved Son, listen to him. Okay, listen to him. So I put this question before you, brothers and sisters. Does this imply that Father never wanted for his son to die? That makes much more sense, don't you think? And why there was so much wrath on these people, because they killed Father's precious son. Okay, and here we have this idea that God sent his son down, full well knowing that we would kill him, and and that was the whole idea behind it. But what if that is a fear tactic, and something that we never dare to question? Because if we question something of such high significance, and such a beautiful act that's done on behalf of all of humanity, I'm just saying, what does that make us really feel about God? A lot of people, a lot of atheists who don't believe, or people who come out of the church, are like, I just can't believe in a God that would, let his own son be sacrificed. And is that not the story of the Old Testament? Everybody and everything gets sacrificed. Everything gets killed. So I'm just wondering, okay, so that's my first note there. So I said, I will send my son and surely they will listen to him. This implies the Father didn't send his son into the world to die, but to listen to him. Hence the reason why when Jesus was baptized, the dove came down and the Father said, "This is my beloved Son, listen to him." Okay, so here I wrote, Satan masquerades himself as an angel of light. And John says, in the book of John, it says that Jesus said, "I am the light of the world." Okay, and in Isaiah it says that Satan is the bright and morning star. And then in Revelation, it also calls Jesus the bright morning star. And these things are the reason why so many atheists exist, brothers and sisters, because the evil ones have linked these identifying marks onto Jesus. Do you see? Do you see the mountain of deception that's been added on to Jesus's words? To create this canon that they try and hold it all together and link it all together, when all it's doing is creating doubt, contradiction, this hatred for, our Father in heaven when he does not deserve that. Jesus told you who his Father was. His Father is love and merciful kindness. His Father is not jealous. It goes on to explain that, that love is patient and kind and not jealous or envious. But look at the first commandment, you'll have no other gods before me. You won't worship anything above me, below me, beside me, because I am a jealous God and I'll visit those from generation to generation that hate me. I mean, come on. This is what they're doing, brothers and sisters, and this is how we can win the people, the atheists back, is by the Jesus Words Only movement. Because Jesus came and told us this beautiful truth about Papa, about our Abba. And it makes me so sad what's happened to our Father in heaven, and that is he's been so overlooked and so hated on for somebody else's doing and somebody else's horror, but anyway, this is why I say that they're trying to link Jesus in the Old Testament with this Yahweh again, because somebody on my TikTok's like, oh well, what about Isaiah 45, and literally it says that I'm the beginning, the end, or whatever, and so they're linking it with Revelation, right? That's what they do. Like I said in my videos, what they did was, it even says in the scriptures, that if the evil ones and the princes of this world knew what Jesus would accomplish on that cross, they would have never crucified him. But because it happened and they were like, oh crap, the next best thing they could do was form a council together and, form the canon and form the threading of this lie. A very delicate lie that runs through. There's a lot of good words in the writing of Paul, but there's a lot of what the actual in the writings of Paul as well. And again I stress, where in Matthew 24, in Jesus's relay of the signs and everything that's coming before the end of the world, did he ever mention the mark of the beast? Don't you think that's highly important if that was something that was going to come upon the whole world? It literally says in the book of Revelation that the whole world will be worshipping the beast, and this is even before the whole if you don't worship him you'll get your head cut off. They're worshipping the beast before the threat of death is there. Does this make sense now? Brothers and sisters, the whole world is worshipping the beast right now. That is the reality of what I'm trying to bring across to you. The whole world, the Jews, the Muslims, and the Christians are worshipping the beast. And that is Yahweh. Because with the doctrine of the Trinity, the blasphemous doctrine of the Trinity, by saying Jesus is God and God is Jesus and the Father and the Son are one and all this rubbish, they're linking Yahweh to Jesus, because that was God, right? And Jesus is God, right? Do you see why the whole world, Jews, Muslims and Christians, are already worshipping the beast? Does this not make sense? And this is why he says the roads are so narrow to the truth, and only few find it. Okay. So I wrote John was added way later, and Revelation was added by the Freemasons. Now, at about 1:44 in the morning, early morning, I woke up and I had this nudge on my spirit to go and look, when was the book of John added? And by doing that, it came up with this page and pages of the secret gospel of John. And I'm like, what is this delight? I love my Apocrypha and secret gospels and things like this. And so I watched a little introduction, pardon me, of what the secret gospels of John were. And they were books that were highly heretical and so-called highly blasphemous from the church, so much so that they were burned, and people who were caught with them were burnt at the stake and exiled and all this kind of stuff. So straight away, to me and my heart and my studying and my understanding, that means look at it. Because if the church hates it with a passion and tries to hide it, it means there's truth in it. So I decided one night to listen to it properly. It's about 57 minutes long, and it is incredible. It explains everything that we're talking about now, even so much as to say that the secret gospel of John even talks about the prison trap that we're in, the soul trap that we're in. And I mean, you go and search this for yourself and listen to it. Now, I warn you, it's not the regular run-of-the-mill type of a gospel, but it explains to me why I've had such a nudge on my heart to really be a little iffy with the book of John. And another thing that makes me a little wary of John is the fact that if you were to type in, I'm a baby Christian or a new Christian, the Bible is very confusing, what would you recommend a great place for me to start at? The number one recommended book for a new Christian to start at is the book of John. Every man and his dog will say, oh, go read the book of John. That's the best place to start. And, to me that screams agenda. So, like I said, take it with a grain of salt. Again, nothing that I'm saying here tonight, brothers and sisters, is thus saith the Lord. I'm just going on a journey and I'm taking my brothers and sisters with me. But I truly do see this veil falling and all of this being revealed, and there's so much sense to it. Okay. So, and it even, like I said here, the secret gospel of John even talks about how the God of the Bible is not our Father in heaven, okay, which they call the One, okay, and there's nothing higher, there's nothing greater. You can't even comprehend the Father in the secret Gospel of John. Okay, now this next little bit, I know you're going to be like, what are you watching that for? But I just came across it, and like, if you've stayed with me this far, you know, you're my brother and sister. You know that I like to, you know, I'm a very open-minded person. Anyway, I'm going to stop making excuses for why I tell you these things. Let's just get into it. So I came across this TikTok, and it was a person using one of those spirit boxes. In other words, they were talking to the dead, okay? And they were talking to Steve Irwin. Now, Steve Irwin, if you don't know, he was the crocodile hunter, you know, the crocodile man here in Australia, and very, very, very beloved man, you know, one of our greatest icons that we have here in Australia. And he died because a so-called stingray pierced him. But, you know, he died doing what he loved, as they say. And anyway, so this video comes across, and it's Steve Irwin being channeled from this spirit box. It's kind of like a radio, and this person's talking and just asking, you know, Steve questions and stuff like this. Now, you know, before anyone says, the Bible says not to talk to the dead. Yeah, well, that's in the Old Testament, okay? So, the more you realise what we are and the fact that we're eternal and we never do die, the more open you are to seeing, you know, if the church tells us not to do these things, maybe, you know, look, I've always loved near-death experiences. Like I said in many of my other videos, they were the one reassurance to me that yes, it doesn't matter what is right and what's wrong, in the end there is a heaven. So be a good person, and, you know, eventually we'll just get there. So now with the things that I see, I'm more aware that there is such a bigger spiritual aspect to this, and the other side to this that we've been kept from so long. So this is why. And I've always been interested in the so-called paranormal and all that kind of stuff, okay? I just have stayed away from it when I was a, in quotes, Christian, okay? Anyway, so this guy asked Steve, you know, what's heaven like? And basically this is what Steve's response was. The light took us, the light takes us all. Okay, and the reason I found that so interesting is because my last video was talking about, you know, this perception. This is where reincarnation comes from. The idea of, you know, when somebody dies, they go into the light, and the first person, you know, the first people to greet them is their loved ones that have passed on already. And this is like a fake AI simulation to elude them to come here. You know, they've got the good news type thing, and, you know, they push these people to go back. You know, and so there's this whole thing, when your time has come to pass, don't go into that light. And what I was showing you before with the light, you know, that Satan masquerades himself as light, and I am the light of the world phrase only comes in the book of John. I'm like, okay. And, you know, and how the secret Gospel of John actually talks about this prison reincarnation soul cycle thing as well. And here we have Steve Irwin saying the light took us and the light takes us all. Okay, and then he goes on to describe heaven as a dream that he can't wake up out of. And I'm like, straight away in my heart, I was like, they've got some kind of heaven matrix simulation. Okay, because we can't die, brothers and sisters. We are eternal beings. Our soul is eternal. We cannot die. It's like, I don't even know how to explain it, okay? But, so what I'm saying is the bad people, the evil people have worked out that when we pass from this earth, we, go through this because we've been programmed, to go to the light. That sounds good, doesn't it? So everybody does this. We see our loved ones, we trust our loved ones, and, the soul cycle just goes back through again and again and again. What I'm saying, brothers and sisters, is we've reached a stage right now where this stops. There's going to be no more. When you and I pass on now, there's going to be no more of this recycling, this reincarnation. And before you say, reincarnation, that's just all, New Age, Buddha, all that kind of stuff. No. It was even in the Bible, right? When Jesus asked Peter, he says, who do people say I am? What's the first thing Peter says? People say that you're Elijah. Okay, so obviously the concept of reincarnation was not a foreign thing. Okay, because how else could Jesus possibly be? How else could that possibly be an option, unless reincarnation was a thing? And so I'm like that. Okay, the elites have the technology, the fallen angels, the evil people. They have this technology to create this dream simulation, this heaven matrix simulation rather. And I wrote here, it's kind of like Islam's 72 virgin trick. Now, I saw a documentary years and years and years ago about how they recruit people to do suicide missions and stuff, like in Islam. For the hijab or whatever they call it. And basically what they do is they will get this young man and they bring him to, this nice place and whatever. And, this person basically is an initiation, right? So they invite this person over to this nice place and they give them dinner. And in the dinner or in the drink, there's some kind of a hallucinative drug that is given to these people. And as the night goes on, they become entranced within this drug. And this is when they bring out the girls, the Harlem girls, I think they call them. And they're basically, the person believes they're having a trance or an envision or an actual spiritual visualization of heaven. So they've got all these beautiful women, they've just come out of nowhere, pandering this person, and all the riches and all the wine and all the food and the tables being set out for this person. And then when they come back to it, they've been told that they've had a vision of heaven. And the 72 virgin, or the 14, I can't remember how many virgins they're promised, but this is how they do it. And these people believe that they've had a vision of what they're going to be given if they, give their life for Islam. And I'm like, oh my goodness, this is kind of the same thing. And it's funny that the Jews have 72 names of God. Okay? The Jews have 72 names of God. Now, this is very interesting. Okay, Mount Sinai, literally spelt Sin AI. And I'm like, no way, Father, no way. This is really incredible. Sin AI. Okay, oh my goodness. And I want to add something else to this, why all these things come to me. I also saw this woman, how you hold those two, I know that my dad used to do this to find water. It's like bits of metal that look like coat hangers, whatever. you sort of hold them and make straight lines, and you hold them with two hands. And I think they call them water diviners. But anyway, there's people who, to ask questions, and when the sticks fold in on themselves, it means yes, and when they fold outwards, it means no. And this woman, she asks whoever, is sin real? Or is sin a thing? And it went out and said no. And then she asked, is sin real for those who believe it? And then it came in. And I'm like, oh my goodness, this explains so much why Jesus said, about not being under the law, about, I hope I can explain myself, brothers and sisters. Now, I'm not trying to say that, all right, go out and kill someone and hurt people. Okay, far from it. What I'm trying to explain here is that sin is a concept to keep us under bondage. And it's just another AI simulation that it all comes down to belief. And this is where the church is getting us from. And this is why the whole John 3:16, for whoever shall believe, believe, that the Father sent the Son down so that he could die. And I'm just like, what is going on here? Like this, no wonder the understanding of how free we can be. If I can really bring this across to you, what I mean by all of this is a simulation, brothers and sisters, all of it. And what we believe, what we focus on, what we hold to be true is what our simulation will be. Okay, and more on that in a second. So the word Sinai is actually another name for the moon god. Another name for the moon god is Allah. And another name for Allah is Baal. And another name for Baal is Molech. Okay, they're all one in the same. They're all one in the same. Okay, Allah, Elohim, Satan. Okay, and this is, because Sinai is the moon god, this is why in Genesis 1 it says the evening and the morning were the first day. Okay, this whole thing where we're looking to the Jews to, when we see the first sliver of the moon, that's the first day of the true month. They've got it right. They've got it right by their God, brothers and sisters, by their moon god, by their Sinai god, by the god of the mountains. Okay, here's a great example. In the story of Sodom and Gomorrah, okay, and I learnt this from Paul Wallace, brilliant teacher. In the story of Sodom and Gomorrah, the name of God there is El Shaddai, and El Shaddai is means the God of high places, or the God of the mountains. Okay, and a lot of the times the description, we'll call him El Shaddai, Elohim, Yahweh. All of these gods are destroying gods, are gods of the hills, gods of the mountains, gods of destruction. Anyway, let's keep going. But this is why they created in the evening to the morning. But when Jesus came out of the grave, it says at the end of the Sabbath, when the sun was dawning on the first day of the week, okay, that's when the day starts, brothers and sisters. In the morning, when the sun comes up, not in the evening like the Jews do, because they follow the moon god. So does Islam. Look at the on top of the the Dome of the Rock, okay? Look at the Islamic flag. It's a crescent moon, okay? Is Mount Sinai exactly that? AI generated sin. Is it AI generated sin? Okay. Mount Sinai, we're still there today. You can have a look at it. It is burnt to this day on the top. It is burnt to this day on the top. And again, when you go back and have a look at my videos, you'll see that the description of Yahweh is very dragon-like, with flames coming out of his nostrils and smoke and the pinions and the wings and riding in the clouds. It's very much a description of a dragon, and Revelation gives us clues too. The old serpent, the dragon. Okay, and that's where he lives. That's where he resides, in the hills, and all that kind of stuff. Now I wrote here, whatever you bind in earth will be bound in heaven, and whatever you loosen on the earth will be loosed in heaven. So this goes back to my previous video where I was talking about the Book of Mormon talks about baptizing the dead, okay, and praying for the dead. And that's always been, that's resonated with me. That's absolutely resonated with me. People have seen this as some kind of weird cultish theology, but to me, I've always thought, okay, it makes sense to me, because we never really die. And is this the reason why we have things like haunted places? And because there is this, like what the Catholic like to say, purgatory. There's some kind of in-between place where some of these beings or souls, they get stuck. And my dear sister had come with this wonderful revelation of because she had a demon that was attacking her little girl, and instead of rebuking it, she actually prayed for that spirit, and her daughter was well after that. And this is the essence of love. This is the absolute essence of love. Could it be that we are supposed to pray for those that are dead, to help them cross over? And this is why we're so indoctrinated by the church to say that's demonic, don't be talking to the dead, don't do this, and don't have anything to do with the dead and stuff like this. Is this the reason why? Should we, Jesus himself was raising people from the dead. He had no problem in doing this. And he says, you're going to do things greater than I did. So, you know what I mean, brothers and sisters? Should we actually be, like I suggested in my last video, should every one of us be going to a local cemetery and, and going around and praying for each and every headstone that we see there? I mean, obviously, in realistic terms, if you've got a cemetery there that has like 2,000 gravestones, then I don't know. It's just something that's been laid on my heart, and I don't know. A brother or sister commented on my last video saying, you should make a powerful prayer that we can go to the cemetery and, to do this. And, apologies, I haven't done that, but like I said, I've been so sick. But, just go there and just say, in the name of Jesus, as Jesus spoke, I'm freeing the captives. And then read their name, I'm freeing you from captivity to go home to Father. In the name of his son Jesus, just something like that. Because that's literally what Jesus did. He came to free the captives, and the captives are the ones that had died in deception. okay, who had died in deception. Those are all the ones that were in Abraham's bosom. All of those people of the Old Testament, that in their heart they loved God, they were trying to do the right thing, but they didn't realise they were being so deceived. So they were held captive in Abraham's bosom until the time that Jesus came to free them. So, I think this verse here is we can bind things and we can loose things so that we can, and I think this relates a lot to what I'm talking about. I think that we can maybe have the power to go and loosen these people that have been held captive, these spirits and these beings and souls. And here's another example. People want to say, people talk about the pineal gland and the third eye and inner standing and looking within and all this kind of thing. Jesus was all about this, brothers and sisters. He was all about this. He literally said, let your eye be single. He said, your eyes are the window to the soul. It shows who you are. It says, let your eyes be single. It means be one. And that means when you've got one eye, it doesn't mean you're a cyclops. It means you look within yourself. Okay? And again, this is something that the church has taught us not to do. How dare you think any highly of yourself? You're as filthy as rags. Remember, the Old Testament told us this, that we're filthy like rags. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? When Jesus said that, that you're going to do greater things than I do. But then yet we're told that we're filthy like rags and we can't even come even near the foot of Father. It really puts a lot of stuff into perspective. But Jesus said that, you're looking around, you're waiting for this materialistic heaven on earth thing, but heaven and, the kingdom of heaven is not something that you can observe, for it's within you. It's within you, brothers and sisters. So my next thing. Okay, sci-fi, Wi-Fi. Okay, this is the next little thing that came to me. Science fiction and Wi-Fi. The fi part at the end. Sci-fi, Wi-Fi. It's literally spelt the same. So I'm like, okay, science fiction, wireless fiction. Is this why they created, remember when, I don't know if you had that over in the States, but over here in Australia, I remember we went from analogue TVs and there was a whole thing from the government, you must get a digital television because we're phasing out the analogues. Okay, we're phasing them out. You must get a digital one. And I'm thinking, okay, wireless fiction. And I went and had a look at, at a Wi-Fi page here. Wi-Fi on Wikipedia. And it's not even short for anything. They've just come up with this name because originally it was called IEEE 802.11, okay? That was its original name, and for some reason they decided to have this, and it was, I think, wireless fidelity or some crap like that. But anyway, it just makes so much sense to me that they've created more and more of a network, of a grid, of a fictitious stimulation around us, okay? Now, this is amazing. Like, my mind has been like this since I've been a child. I've always been sus on the TV and cameras, and I'm like, it's black magic. It's voodoo magic. Because when you look at a TV and you watch a picture, you watch a video, you watch movement, It's like that's physically not possible, logically not possible. Yes, I know you're going to tell me the scientific and, step-by-step reasons why, because there's mirrors and it's on certain angle and the light and the refraction and all that bullshit. Okay, I know that. I know they give us, the scientific of why it works and all that, right? I get that. But the reality is, brothers and sisters, is it's voodoo black magic. Okay, so I wrote, think about this. The only reason TVs and cameras work is because no one has ever questioned the science. Okay? They just said, this is how it works, and we went, oh, that's cool, and we all believed in its operation. Because remember, there was a time back in the 80s and the 90s and even in the 2000s, in the early 2000s, where we would just believe what the scientists said. We would believe what the programmers and smart people said, right? And that was just way above our pay grade. And we were happy to be like that. And all they had to do was say, a TV works because, such and such light, they do this and they do that, and then you get this picture, and we all just went, okay. Like, to me, I've never been a person that just goes, okay, just because someone says something. I'm like, nah. I think the only reason, and I'm starting to understand now, the only reason why these things exist is because on a combined worldwide agreement, we've just been okay with the answer that's been given, and what? We believe it. So therefore it is. Okay. And I wrote, how is it even possible for someone to capture an image unless we live in a simulation? I've always thought, how is it possible for you to stand there, for me to go click and capture you in that moment just with light, just with a click of the camera? Like, it's physically BS. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying, brothers and sisters? The only possible way for all of this to work is if we actually live in a computer digital simulation. Because it's just like we're living in like the game The Sims. Okay? They can have a little TV on there, and then they can put programs on that TV, and then when you move your little sim around to go sit down in front of the TV, they turn on the TV and that program's there. And you just expect that because it's part of what we know. And we don't question that, right? Because it's entertainment. It enters the mind and entertains us. And the only way that I've ever been able to be satisfied with an answer to that question of how that is even possible is that we live in a simulation. When I've been looking down this path now, it's like, yes, this makes so much sense now. This is how these things can work, because it's all digital. Okay, it's all digital. And the more advanced they get in technology, the more impressive it is, and the more... This is why we look around now, brothers and sisters, and we don't know what's real and what's CGI anymore, because those two worlds are merging now. The lie is being revealed now, that they're literally one and the same. The real and the CGI have become one. I know it sounds like I've had one too many spliffs, but believe me, at the moment I wish I could. But let's keep them going because I'm only on page 4 here. Okay, so it's physically impossible that TV works unless we believe it does and not question it. Why do you think all the elders used to say that the TV was evil? Remember? Remember back in the day? I don't remember that time because I wasn't born in the 60s and 70s, but you see it all the time. They showed it on the, in the old footage where the old people, the grandparents were like, I don't like that TV thing, it's an evil thing and it's going to make your eyes go square and it's, the demons are coming out of it, I don't know, maybe they were right. Same with the camera. Why did so many churches and ancient tribal people forbid the use of this device? Still today in Mexico, there's churches where you are not allowed to bring a camera or any digital device in there because it's considered evil. The movie, I always remember the movie, what was it called? Crocodile Dundee. Crocodile Dundee, there's a journalist, that lady that's in that movie with him, and she sneaks up to to film or to take a few photos of the tribal meeting and dance that they were having, and he sneaks up, Crocodile Dundee sneaks up on her and she's like, oh, shouldn't I be taking photos? And he's like, oh, no, it's just because your lens cap's off. But she said, but before that she was like, oh, do they believe that it will bring bad spirits or something? That's always stuck in my mind because I'm like, it's obviously got to be a thing if it's brought up. And, and when you look into it, a lot of these tribal elders said that it would suck your soul out, cameras and things like this. So this theory of TV and cameras, etc., not being possible except that we believe in it means it's a hack to beating them at their own game. Now this is when I started really realising how strong and how dangerous it is for them that we wake up, brothers and sisters. Because once we wake up and realise this web, this grid, this simulation that we've been under, this imprisonment, once we realise it, and they realise that we realise, they're like, oh shit, we're in big trouble now. Because it's as easy as turning off the freaking news. Okay, like I said in my other video, this is how they've got you with the rapture. This is how they've got the people with the rapture. The millions and millions of people who are watching for the rapture, constantly watching for the war over in Israel and Hamas, and watching the red heifers, and watching the now we've got this thing, the Bible's going to be banned. And I saw a great, and I'm not worried about that 1%, brothers and sisters. I am not worried about that 1%. One, we're supposed to have the scriptures written on our hearts. And you may freak out and go, how on earth am I supposed to have the whole scriptures written on my heart? Because it's simple. Jesus said, there's 2 commandments, brothers and sisters. The first one is to love the Father with all your heart, soul and mind. And the second one is to love your neighbour as yourself. Everything else hangs off those. If you love, it is literally love. That's it. That is the whole scriptures on your heart. Because every parable comes back to love. Okay, so let them do what they want. Let them take away the Bible. Okay, because the Bible has caused a lot of pain, a lot of suffering in the name of God, putting a Father's name in the dirt over and over and over and over again. Okay, and also it is because we are awakening. Okay, we are awakening to the truth, to their lies, to their control. to their propaganda, and we don't need that anymore. Okay, we don't need that anymore. Like I said, once that solar eclipse happened, brothers and sisters, it was the awakening. My job is to get you quicker over the denial and the hurt and the angry stage, and straight to seeing it for what it is and going, okay, cool, I see it. And it doesn't mean anything worse or anything bad. It actually is exactly what Jesus said, the truth will set you free. It's just me, Jesus, and my Papa. That's it. Okay, that's it. It's the most freeing truth you could ever have in your entire lifetime. Okay, and everything hangs off the love that you have for our Father in heaven, for Jesus, and for one another. That's where you're going to get your charity. That's where you're going to, and you know, this whole seeing the loving one another as you love yourself. This is the oneness that Jesus keeps talking about. It's not the Trinity. It's the oneness of realizing that we are all part of the Father. We are all part of Jesus. Okay, not to say we're God Almighty in heaven, no, but we are all part. We're all God's children. And when you're hurting, I'm hurting. When you're happy, I'm happy. And this is what the bad people don't want us to realize, brothers and sisters, that we are all one. And once we become one, like that movie The Matrix, everything will be like whoosh. It'll zap into a moment of clarity, and from this moment on, you're free. And they have no control of you anymore. Okay? And they are terrified. They know this is happening right now. They know this is happening right now because we have reached the end of this reincarnation cycle. There's no more cycling. There's no more eons. There's no more ages left. This is the end. This is as far as it's going to go. Okay, so we're going to beat them at their own game, brothers and sisters. Okay, so in other words, don't believe that they exist. Don't turn off that news. Turn off searching for something that's keeping you imprisoned. Brothers and sisters, please turn that off. You know, when you're comfortable with this idea, when you're comfortable with what I'm sharing with you, that you are free, you're free indeed, then you go and start and spreading and blossoming that truth through your happiness, through your joy, through your mind that is now free to be thankful and live in gratitude and live in harmony and live in peace and live in joy and live in spirit and communication with the Father in heaven and His Son, and to help one another when you see, and to be one with everything. To know, even to the point where you're not even squashing a little ant anymore, because you realize oh man, I feel like I'm about to tear up big time. But this is what I mean, brothers and sisters. We're going to come to that. You know, this is why they demonize this whole idea of talking like this. You know, because they want to say, oh, that's hippie, that's new age, that's, you know, that's... But yet they want to keep us in, you know, we're filthy like rags. And we're wicked sinners, and we're born into sin, and all of this other stuff. That's where they want to keep us. But when we realise that even Jesus Himself said, you'll do greater things than I will do. Okay? This is the power that Jesus gave us in Luke 10:19. I give you all power over the serpents, the scorpions, and power over all evil, and nothing will touch you. It's because we don't believe that. That's what we're having problems in our life. you know. And you know, there's another one, just while I'm on that subject, in Paul's writing, okay, he says, you know, God chastises those who he loves. You know, it's things like this that we're told that, okay, does that make sense? God punishes those that he loves? No, he doesn't. He doesn't punish anybody. Father literally says, this is why Jesus did the parable, or not parable, but the actual example of the sheep. You know, 99 sheep, you know, if one goes astray, he will leave the 99 sheep to go and get that one, because he doesn't want one soul to perish. We've got to realise the love of the gospel, the love of the truth, and stop looking at what the church has put on us and the traditions of hatred and control and imprisonment and captivity. It is time that we break free from this, brothers and sisters. It is time that we break free from this and see this. What I'm telling you is not some hippie la-la stuff. It is, look around you. And I think it can finally be held up on a spotlight, and people now can say, maybe I'm going to consider that now, because look at the sun, look at the sky, look at the moon. They're all weird. It's like they're fake. It's like they're computer generated. You know, they've got some kind of computer chips in them, and now we can actually associate one with the other. That if the sky and the sun and the moon are fake, what else is fake? And look at all the movies, the Hunger Game. You know, the Hunger Games, where she hits the arrow up into the firmament, and it you know, the glass comes down and they can see the framework. It's right there. It's right there, brothers and sisters. But it also has a lot to do with the don't believe it. Don't believe they exist. But you have to stop. And I know it's hard. I know it's hard, because watching, we think that it's a commandment from Jesus to watch for the signs of, you know, his return. Brothers and sisters, the story where when Jesus was talking about watch and come in like a thief in the night, you can read in Luke 19 exactly what Jesus was talking about. It says, because you weren't watching, the armies will come about you and dig trenches, and they're going to come in and they're going to overtake you. He was talking about 70 AD. Okay, in Luke 19 it goes on to say, because you didn't know the time of my visitation. It's talking about 70 AD. He's not talking about now. Now there is no signs. The only signs that we're going to see is what's happening around us now. Is the whole matrix, the whole world, the whole system is falling apart. And this is why we're seeing tornadoes and floods. I mean, where is it? I can't even remember the place that's completely underwater at the moment. But it's just so much, you know, people don't even bat an eyelid anymore. The whole world is falling apart. The whole system is crumbling. And this is why I'm here, brothers and sisters. This is my mission now, is to wake you up from that captivity and to realise that the cycle stops this time. The cycle stops this time, and you need to come out of that imprisonment and to be freed in what Jesus came and the message that he preached and gave his life for. So I went on to write, their own technology for imprisoning us is now revealing the truth in the sky. The computer-generated sun simulator, the sky grid, etc. No wonder they had to try and wipe us out in 2020. It's funny how it's called 2020 vision. You know, because 2020 vision is perfect eyesight, right? So many that took it, you know what I'm talking about, the jab. So many that took it now don't have the time to look into these things. So many people that took the jab, right, they don't have time to be looking into what we're looking into today because of their medical issues that's now arisen from that, okay? And isn't it funny how it was called coronavirus, okay? The first part is the sun. That's what they call the sun, okay? Or an eye. We've got an eye corona, okay? And the next part, virus, okay? That's a computer. A computer. So it's a sun virus, okay? Or an eye virus. They want us to have, you know, it's just coming to me now about the parable of, you know, have a look at the plank in your own eye before you try and remove the speck in your brother's eye. Okay, so I wrote, this is the last leg of the race, the last reincarnation cycle, this time the decision maker. So fix your karma like Jesus showed us to. Like I said before, with the 2 great commandments, love Father with all your heart and serve Him only, and for us to love one another. And isn't it funny how our Father in heaven wants our love? But Yahweh in the Old Testament, He wanted this in the 10 Commandments, right? Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Thou shalt not make any graven image or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or in the earth or beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them, for I am the Lord thy God, and am a jealous God. You know, and I read that before. Big difference from the Father just wanting love and not forcing you to love Him, but to love Him because we're realizing the truth. You know, just like we don't want to force anybody to love us, but when someone, you know, genuinely loves us truly. And you know, there's many people, I'm one of them, I have never, ever, ever experienced true love in my life. Whew, that makes me really sad, actually, but the reality is I have experienced true love, and that's from the Father and from Jesus. And that is literally probably the only reason that I'm sitting here today talking to you. But I'm being real with you, brothers and sisters, I have never experienced that in a human form. I've got beautiful, beautiful, beautiful children, 6 beautiful children, and 1 beautiful child that is in with Father's care. So 7 all up. But that love from a human I've never really experienced. That true love. But I'm not the only one, you know, I'm not the only one. And I can't wait to be free of having to be sad over that, because like Jesus said, you know, we are going to be like the angels. There's going to be no need to marry. So there's going to be so much overwhelming happiness and completeness in eternity that's to come, that all that stuff won't matter anyway. So I'm looking forward to that. Looking forward to that big time. Okay. The enemy's use of law and attraction is just taken from Jesus' words. Oh my goodness, brothers and sisters, this is incredible. I just remember this revelation I had, and all praises go to the Almighty Father. Okay, the enemy's use of law and attraction is just taken from Jesus' words. And when the disciples saw it, they marveled, saying, "How soon is the fig tree withered away?" Okay, so this is after Jesus came up to the fig tree, seeing that there was no fruit on it, and he cursed it, and it withered away, right? And Jesus answered them, saying, "Verily I say unto you, if ye have faith and doubt not, you shall not only do this which is done to the fig tree, but also if you say unto this mountain, be thou removed, and be thou cast into the sea, it shall be done. And all things whatsoever you shall ask in prayer, believing ye shall receive." And I have always looked at that scripture, and there's been times where I've tried to do the so-called Jedi mind trick where I'm trying to, move things and that kind of thing. And then it occurred to me, brothers and sisters, what we're looking at right now, this simulation is the only way that is possible. How else, other than us living in a simulation, could you say to a mountain, go into the sea? And how else could Satan tempt Jesus with all the kingdoms of this world in front of him? It's all an image. Imagine this, picture this, brothers and sisters. If we're living in a simulation and in front of you is a grid format with everything, the trees, the mountain, the birds, etc., right? That is the only physical, logical way that I could say, if I really believed, that mountain, get up and move into the sea. All I'm doing is shifting along the grid that mountain and moving it into the sea. Or I'm pressing Control, Alt, Delete. I mean, I don't know if you had that big revelation that I had, but it's literally makes so much sense, because I was always like, how on earth could you say to a mountain, remove yourself and go into the sea? It's because it's an image. The mountain is literally an image, and he's saying, if you believe and have enough faith, you can do this. Because they're like, how did you get rid of the tree? How did you make the tree die? Because he wrote it into the code. Because he's just that, the belief gives you the power. I said, how else could Satan tempt Jesus with all the kingdom of this world in front of him? It's all an image. This is how Satan was able to go and put in front of him all the kingdoms of the world right at that second. He was able to create the image. Okay? Now what gets even more amazing, why do you think it says in their playbook, the book of Revelation, that people will be worshipping what? The image of the beast and not Satan himself? Don't you ever consider that strange? That we're told Satan wants all this worship, all the time, but yet when it comes to the book of Revelation, it's not Satan that we're worshipping. Supposedly it's the image of the beast. Okay? Because first off it says, the whole world worships and wanders after the beast. And then it goes down and says, and then they, one of the beasts were told to create an image to the beast, and he made people and forced people to worship the image of the beast. And if they didn't, they would be killed. There you go, brothers and sisters. That's what the image of the beast is. It is something within the matrix that It's belief in the matrix. It is belief in that, in the physical that you see before you, and not understanding the inner workings of it, like we're getting to right now. Okay, why do you think it says in their player's book that people will be worshipping the image of the beast and not Satan himself? How can anyone worship an image? Only through belief in that image. Okay? Only through belief in that image. This is how powerful belief in something that's fake and false is, brothers and sisters. This is how powerful it is. And this is why they've got one last hurrah at it. Okay, one last hurrah at it. Oh my goodness, this is like, I feel like I'm getting massive revelation right now. This could be it. This could literally be what the image is, brothers and sisters. It could be that we've been revealed to what we're actually dealing with here, and this is a simulation. And now the actual mark of the beast is the actual worshipping of the image, like worshipping this system that Satan's created, this fake system. And holding on to it rather than, oh my goodness. I'm going to have to look into this a lot more, because I'm feeling something big time about this. I'm feeling like this is the separation of the wheat and the tares right here. Is people want to love the image. People want to love the digital image that's in front of them because it's safe. Oh my goodness. This is it, brothers and sisters. I'm telling you, I'm really feeling this in my spirit right now, that this is what Father's showing me. This is what the image is. The image of the beast is what the image of people's comfort is. And they would much rather prefer, oh my goodness, the great delusion, where it says because they hated the truth and they loved the lie. I don't know. I don't get so overwhelmed like this unless it's something to it. But I think this is it, brothers and sisters. I think the time is now to understand the reality of where we live and how we live and who we are, and how to escape from this. But there is those that I'm clearly seeing, very much so, and I still pray for their eyes and ears to be open. But if they are not, I can see very clearly how mean the opposition is. And I'm not talking about the worldly opposition, I'm talking about Christians in their hatred for talking about stuff like this. And they hate the truth, but they loved the lie, the image that they're holding on to. This is why the whole world will worship the image of the beast. And only a few will be chosen and few will make it. It's only through belief in that image. Hence the book of Revelation is a Freemasonry playbook to constantly bombard us with the end of the world, the mark of the beast propaganda. Notice money is worthless anyway. It is. What is it? Especially now it's gone digital. It's even more worthless money. And this is why everything, wherever sin is, grace abounds more so. So the Bible being removed, the cash being removed. You know, you've got these Christians worldwide that are like in an uproar. Like, this is the worst thing on earth, you know. Oh, the cashless society, this is what the book of Revelation said. Oh, the Bible's been removed. This is what the word of God said is going to happen, you know. They've got us under a spell. They've got us under, oh my goodness. But these things need to happen because they're not real. They're not real, brothers and sisters. And a man cannot love money or God. Money and God. It's either one or the other. And because of the love of money, this is what, this whole thing, like, I'm sitting on the fence with Trump. I just don't, I don't know anything anymore, you know what I mean? Like, yes, there's many videos where I said he's the Antichrist, and, and that's coming from when I believed in the rapture and, other biblical doctrines and things like this. And, but one thing that's always remained sus, is that his promotion or his ideal of, this quantum money and everybody being able to have $10,000 a month and the med beds and the promise of the continuous good things. I don't know whether that's all part of a new world that's coming or that's all part of a grand deception. Because look at Trump, he is a lover of money. He is the greatest man on this earth that loves money. I just, I'm not going to judge anybody anymore. Calling this person Antichrist and this person Antichrist and this person evil and that person evil, it's not up to us. We need to look within. We need to look and concentrate on within now. Your soul, your journey is the most important thing from this moment onwards, because unless you know these things, and again, I'm not sitting here saying that I'm right, what I'm telling you is right, but brothers and sisters, does this not make sense? Does this not resonate with you? That this is what Jesus came to set us free from this evil image digital dictatorship of lies and things that aren't even real. So now I wrote, so it's all over the show, but that's my mind. Now coordinates make sense. The sky could only be coordinated if it were a sky grid, like the game Battlefield, right? Right 35, letter D, I throw a target. I said this is how they could, how they can target nukes, and I'm not saying nukes are real, but it makes a lot of sense how they can target things specifically, and how they can say, oh, that location is, right northeast 35 degrees, etc., etc. It's just all starting to make sense. And they literally say, when you have a Panadol, I think you guys call it Tylenol over in America. Panadol's like a headache pill. But they say when you have a headache pill, all it's really doing is, they literally say this, is short-circuiting the pain receptors in your brain. Why would they use the word short-circuit? I mean, this whole thing is just a computer game. And look at the things coming out now where, NPCs, people who play video games and stuff like that, there's these NPCs which are non-player characters. It's the players, the characters that walk around in the background where you may walk up to them and ask them for a hint or whatever, and they've got, these certain script things that they can say. But now these non-player characters are actually having conversations with people, and the real people are saying, hey, where do you go when I turn the game off? And they're like, what do you mean, where do we go? What do you mean, the game? Who am I? Where am I? And they're having these full-on conversations with them. It's like, what is going on here? And then I wrote, is a narcissist placed in the lives of every woke person? I don't mean woke as in this woke crap. I'm talking about people who are awake to, to receive truths. But I would love to know this in the comments if these things that I'm saying resonates with you, and you're going on a similar journey of like realizing that we've been lied to and stuff like this. But you've always had trouble in relationships or with family and friends where they're just calling you crazy and they're very narcissistic behaviour and stuff. I just wonder if they're placed in our lives so that because a narcissist's biggest trait is to make you think you're crazy. Is to say, they can call you an idiot, for a week straight, and then you can finally speak up for yourself and it's like, why do you keep calling me an idiot? And they'll be like, I never called you an idiot. What are you talking about? And they're so good at it that you actually second guess yourself and you're like, well, did they call me an idiot or did I just think they did? I'm just wondering, it'd be interesting to know from you guys if you feel like a narcissist has been part of your life. It'd just be interesting because I definitely know that's been the case. Like my first husband, when I had my two eldest boys, very narcissistic. I mean, he was able to cheat on me continuously for so long without me even, I knew that's the thing, but just trust in heart, and I just like to see the best in people. But, and then the father of my 4 younger children, same thing. Very, very good at it. Very, very good at it. And I love him. I love him and I forgive him. And, that's another thing that I've learnt recently. As many of you know, probably some of you don't know, but pardon me. I came out of a verbally violent relationship of 12 years. I've been out now for about a year, and it was particularly verbally violent, and coming towards the end it was physically violent. But one thing I did for the last sort of 8 months was keep a journal on my phone in my notepad, and photos of the alcohol that he drank, and and I had voice recordings, and I would tell him that I was going to record his voice and stuff, and it just made him say even worse stuff to me. And I had this all on documentation because I was seeing somebody, like a counsellor, and she said, you need to keep this to back it up. You may even need it years down the track. Okay. And anyway, long story short, so I had this on my phone, right? And long story short, I ended up giving my old phone to my daughter, and my son gave me his newer iPhone, and I totally didn't think anything of it because it was just meant for my daughter to loan that phone until I could get another one. And anyway, so it came to about maybe 2 weeks ago now. She asked me if she could reset the phone, because eventually I ended up thinking, she can just have the phone rather than me spending money getting another one. And I said, yeah, because I was washing the dishes and just not even thinking. And all of a sudden I remember this, 36-page thing that I had written with voice recordings and photos and everything like this, and I'm like, oh, that's all going to be deleted. And I'm like, I dropped the dishes and I'm like, hang on, Nevaeh, before you do that, and she'd already done it. She'd already pressed, she'd already reset the phone. And anyway, I freaked out for a second, and then she's like, oh, I can try and get it back. I can try and get it back. And she was looking on Google about how to, get it back and whatever. And while she was doing that, I had this overwhelming thing come over me to say, just let it go. Let it go. The only thing it's doing is hurting you. Let it go. Forgive and forget and move on and let it go. And so I was like, because usually you've got that selfish thing in you. You're like, no, I don't want to let it go. I want to hold on to it forever. But I didn't have that this time. And I'm like, actually, darling, don't worry about it. I don't want it. I don't want it anyway. It wasn't good for me. And she's like, she's still in the middle. She's like, sure, I think I know how to do it. And I'm like, no, don't do it. I don't want it. I don't want to see it ever again. It's great. This is a wonderful thing that's happened. Anyway, that was a story time. I don't know why I told you that. But maybe somebody needed to hear that if you have anything like that, you need to let that go. Okay? Because it's a way for the enemy to hold on to you and to use something against you. And these things don't do anything but cause us pain. So, yeah, that's that. Okay. Yeah, see, when I took my phone notes and brought them over to my, what do you call it? My WordPad, it didn't copy any of the pictures. But there's this thing called matryoshika brains, okay? This is interesting. It says, so basically the picture was some professor's idea that there was a super brain, like the supercomputer is actually in the sea. It's under the ocean, right? Under the ocean. And I was like, no freaking way. And there was a whole scientific thing, a whole quantum thing that worked it out, and they had diagrams and everything about how this theory could possibly work. And the reason I got so like, what the about it was because only the day before, Atlantis had come into my mind a lot. And then so that's why I wrote this. So I'm like, no way. What if the headquarters for the supercomputer that's running like the simulation and stuff is in the sea? Under the ocean. And that's why the ocean floor is freezing cold, because you know how like the scientists say that the Earth's core is boiling hot, it's molten lava, but yet the floor of the ocean is freezing. So I'm like, oh man. And then like the D-Wave supercomputer, right, which originally I thought was like the mark of the beast, that's at a sub-zero temperature. So all those big beast type computers, right, they all have to run or be kept at sub-zero temperatures. And I'm like, what a perfect way to do it. And Atlantis, I've been always interested in Atlantis. Maybe that, they said it was sunk under the sea, and there's evidence all over the shop that they found the tritons and the statues and evidence of Atlantis. So what, SpongeBob comes to mind right now. We live in a pineapple under the sea, SpongeBob SquarePants. I mean, his address was 123 Bikini Bottom. Apparently that's the same address as Epstein's Island. And what's her name? Julia Maxwell, whatever her name was. She was a submarine. She could pilot, if that's what they're called. And so what if there's a whole network under the sea? This is how my mind works. So I'm like, well, where is the internet cables? Yes, they tell us it's up in the sky and the satellites, but that's BS. Because the internet cables, they run along the ocean floor, okay, and they're not in space. And this is why the ocean is salty. I was like, okay, this makes so much sense. This is exactly why the ocean is salty. Because I watched an experiment years ago, and because I love salt, so anything to do with salt, I'm like, yeah. Where they had a fish tank, and they just had water in it, and they had these electrical prongs in it, and they're hooked up to a light or something, and did nothing. They added a few granules of salt in it, and boop, 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 the light starts flickering. They add more salt into it, and it makes the light, the conductivity from the salt in the water created the energy and the electricity. I'm like, no freaking way. Okay, so, so what if the big supercomputer that's running this show is under the sea? And, in the book of Revelation, how it says, the beast comes up out of the sea. Is this Atlantis? And this is page 9, last page here. The Hebrew root word nahash, which refers to a serpent, is also the root word of the Hebrew word for copper, or brass, or bronze. Although they have distinct meanings, the connection between these words becomes apparent when considering the symbolic representation of serpents in the ancient world. Now, the reason I copied this was, remember in Numbers 21, when Yahweh sent out fiery serpents to bite everybody and killed heaps of people. And then the people said to Moses, "Oh, tell Yahweh we're sorry, please, we don't want to die anymore." And then Yahweh told Moses to build a pole and put a serpent on the top of it and tell everybody to look at it and look upon it, and then they would live. I mean, what the frig? Nobody questions this stuff, and it was a copper serpent, and this is where they get the logo for the medical thing today. So I just thought I'd add that little thing at the end there. Now let's just quickly look at my notes, because this video is heaps long. But that's what you get. Okay, alright. Okay, I'll just try and run through these a bit quick. So I wrote, and sorry this is so messy, like a lot of these things I'm just literally grabbing these things and writing them while I'm lying down. Because of my sore throat, Father asked me to hum Amazing Grace, because I read somewhere once that humming, the vibration, can heal or help a sore throat. So okay, I thought, what better frequency than to hum Amazing Grace, right? And I could only get through the chorus of Amazing Grace before it started really hurting my throat. And then anyway, the next night I was in the shower, and I had this like shiver of praise where I just wanted to sing the full song of Amazing Grace, because that was my baptism song. And I realised the song actually says a couple of things. One, how sweet the sound. Okay. And when we've been here, when we've been there 10,000 years, bright shining as the sun, we've no less days to sing God's praises than when we first begun. And I'm like, 10,000 years? We've been here for 10,000 years? And then I thought, where else have I heard that? And then the song goes on to say, the earth shall soon dissolve like snow, the sun forbear to shine, but God who calls me here below will forever be mine. And then the 10,000 years song, that other Christian song, it says, and on that day when my strength is failing, the end draws near and my time has come, still my soul will sing your praises, never ending, 10,000 years and then forevermore. I'm like, what's with this 10,000 thing? So I type in 10,000 into like BibleGateway.com, and it brings up 66 results in the KJV. And that was all good. But then one of the results was 1 Corinthians 4:16. And I know exactly why Father got me to go down this road. Because when I read 1 Corinthians 4:16, it was Paul asking people, or telling people rather, to be followers of him. Okay? And this is just paraphrasing here because I don't want to go into this now. I might make another video about this. And then in 1 Corinthians 5:5, it was Paul was telling, certain believers or, certain people who were doing wrong things. He said, deliver such ones up into Satan. And I'm like, what the frig, Paul? Like, what is going on here? And then I thought, no, I'm going to start at the beginning of chapter 4. And then I read 4, 5, 6, and 7. And, in 1 Corinthians chapter 7, verse 36, literally talks about rape. And like I said, I'm going to make another video about this, but there was so many things, brothers and sisters, that I literally want to read 1 Corinthians with you, and we're going to go through it because I want you to see this for yourself. Paul is like you will know exactly what I mean by Jesus' words only after that. Because this guy, I don't know how we've come so far without seeing the deception of Paul, but he's exactly who Jesus warned us of. Chapter 11 verse 2, keep the ordinances which I have given you, and Jesus did away with all of this on the cross, right? Now I just wrote this little note here because I was looking into lucid dreaming. I was looking more about the dreams and how, because they're literally half of our life. And I thought, with this whole simulation thing, the dreams must be so important, what if it's the dream part is the real part? And what if this here is like the simulation? Anyway, like I said, my mind works weird. So, and then I watched this thing and it said, what we focus on before we sleep has a profound impact on our lives. And I thought, oh my goodness, that is so true, because, like me, like many other people, there's a lot of good people who will just read and whatever before bed, but a lot of people will sit there scrolling on TikTok or watch YouTube videos, and then we go to bed. And that's literally the last thing our mind sees. And then we wonder why we're having these weird dreams and nightmares and stuff. And then I'm like, I wonder if there was ever a time that we never needed to sleep. Okay, because we're eternal souls, right? We don't die. And I don't think we'll ever have to sleep once we're in heaven again. The only reason we're sleeping now, brothers and sisters, is because we're getting our energy drained from us. So I wrote, what if we never needed to sleep, but through the evil ones drawing us of our energy, we started to have to rest? And then as the generations went on, the TV and the other AI simulations were added to the point that we were at today, where we spend hours on YouTube or on media before bed to influence our dreams, which is actually the more real part of our existence. And the cycle continues until you have complete lack of reality or understanding, and then you die, and then you start it all over again, hence where we get deja vu from. Because deja vu is one of those things that no one can explain. And it just makes sense that, there's got to be some kind of recycling, reincarnation. Like I said to you in my last video, I've always had this thing that I feel like in my, if you want to call it past life, I was some kind of sailor. And I don't know if I was like a man, or if I was like a Joan of Arc type person who was really a woman, but dressed herself up to look like a man so I could fit in with the boys. And I don't know, I just got that kind of feeling that that's who I was. But I was like I was like a proper full-on sailor, like who explored the ocean. And so anyway, and just this is the last one to finish off in 2 Kings chapter 1 verse 10. This is the story of Elijah, where, you know, he's telling the I think it was the Canaanites or whatever, you know, get yourself a bull, you know, and sacrifice it and put it onto the you know, your altar and everything, and I'll do the same, except I'll splash 3 buckets of water on mine. And then Elijah says, all right, now you call out to your God and ask him to consume it with fire. Okay, send fire down from heaven and consume the sacrifice, right? And so the Canaanite people were all day, you know, yelling out and chanting and cutting themselves and carrying on, and Elijah's having a good laugh at them, saying, you know, maybe your God's sitting on the toilet, you know, having a good old mock. And then, you know, it's Elijah's turn, and a fire comes from heaven and consumes it, right? Now, what happens in Revelation 13:13? Let's go there, actually, because this is another connection of how deceitful Yahweh is. 13. And so this is talking about the beast, right? And he does great wonders, so that he makes fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men. Like, come on now. That's exactly what Yahweh did in the Old Testament. Made fire come down from heaven in the sight of men. And this is what the beast does in Revelation. I mean, the truth is there when you want to find it. Do you know what I mean? It's right there in front of your face. And then Luke's 21:6, which is the story where I was just talking about the serpents, the fiery serpents coming to bite people. And then in Luke 11:11, Jesus says, if a son shall ask bread of any of you that is a father, will he give him a stone? Or if he asks for a fish, instead of a fish, will he give him a serpent? So back in Numbers 21, the reason Yahweh sent fiery serpents is because the Israelites were like, I'm hungry, I want fish. We used to eat fish back in Egypt, you know, we had fish and garlic and we had all the good stuff, and now we've come out into the wilderness, we're hungry. And so what does Yahweh give them? Fiery serpents to bite them and kill them. And Jesus is here kindly mocking him, saying, you know, what kind of father is that would, if, you know, if his son is saying, hey, I'm hungry, I want a fish, what kind of father would give him a serpent? So anyway, oh look, it's 3 past midnight. Well, brothers and sisters, for not thinking I'd be able to get through a video tonight, I am glad, and I thank you, Father, for letting me be able to get through this video with my throat. I pray this has been a blessing for you. I pray that the Father blesses you and the Son blesses you, and that you may take this and do your own research and things like that. I'm only here, brothers and sisters, because I love you. I'm not telling you to believe this. You know, you can do with it what you will. But I just ask that you're kind. You know, you don't have to believe it, but just don't be mean. There's no reason for it. Anyway, I'm going to leave it with that, because it's probably, 2 hours and 14 minutes. Oh, it's not too bad. But Oh yeah, just interesting. I know this is probably nothing, but the Q website, we're passing through the gate, pack your bags, 5-day countdown. I think that's to May the 15th, so interesting. Anyway, oh yes, this is interesting too. Mind the title, it says, was Jesus an alien? Billy Carson breaks down ancient Anunnaki civilization. Very interesting interview that was. But no matter what fraction people are coming from, whether they're even calling him Jesus an alien or whatever, the one thing that's consistent is that Jesus is always like the highest level of command under Father, always. And he was the one that came to set the captives free, no matter what branch you're coming from. So, and the one thing I just want to leave with, because a lot of people don't want to look in different areas like this. But like I said, Jesus is always mentioned, no matter where you are, as the highest commandment type thing. But Jesus himself, the disciples came up and said, hey, Jesus, that fella over there is doing things in your name. He's not part of our group. And Jesus was like, nothing can be bad that's done in my name. Basically, if you're working, doing good, you're with me, and this is what I think is happening here, is all these people hold a certain amount of truth, and the reality is we've all got to come together in unity and realise that the truth is, so precious and so beautiful and so logical. So I'm going to leave it with that. I pray this video has blessed you, and I look forward to your comments and your emails, and I hope you have a good night. I love you lots, and see you in the next video. Bye.